Chapter 2, verse 22, it says, "Stop regarding man, in whose nostrils is a breath. Of what account is he?" The Bible says, stop focusing on people. He says, who only have one breath left in their nostrils. Okay, think about this. Everyone do something, but take the deepest breath you can right now. Let it go. See, you were only able to do that because someone up there let you do that. Isn't that the craziest thought, to think that I'm not in control of my own life? And so God says, you guys, stop looking at people. Stop getting caught up in this guy or that guy or whatever, and turn your eyes on me. And my job tonight is now to somehow turn our eyes off of Jeremy and onto that God that he was talking about. I mean, that's his desire, if we could get you to think about him. But it's so hard, because I know if I told you tonight, hey, 2 of you tonight, after this conference, Jeremy's going to take you out to sushi. And we're like, come on, you would be so fired up if you won the raffle and said, oh, we get sushi with Jeremy. But if I told you, hey, tonight, you can go home and be alone with God. You know? I mean, okay, you're cheering because you have to, but come on, you would not be as you would just, so many of you would go, I could do that any night. I want to win the sushi. I want to be with Jared, right? There's this sense where it's like, I'm kind of tired. I don't know if I have time for that. You guys, and there's something really off when we start thinking about that. And thinking about the fact that right now, there's this being in heaven who's looking down upon us. And like I said, he gave me that. He gave me that one. Man, sometimes at night when I can't sleep, I just worship God with every breath and go, God, that's crazy. You could have not given me that. Oh man, that was crazy. You could have ended it right there. And I don't know. See, this is weird because I think about it all the time. I do. I think about dying more than anyone I know. Because I just think, man, any second it could. I've had friends that while they were preaching, they fell over and died. And I think, how intense would that be? What's that going to be like? Do you ever think about the moment when you see God and what that's going to be like? Do you ever just sit and wonder, man, what's that going to be like? See, so few people think about that moment, and I think about it all the time. I don't know, maybe it's because of my upbringing. I was born here in San Francisco, in Chinatown, but my mom died while she was giving birth to me. And then my dad remarried, but then when I was around 8 years old, my stepmother died in a car accident. And then my dad got married again. He was a stud. But then my dad died when I was 12 of cancer. And so by the time I'm in junior high, I'm just thinking, man, life is short. And I gotta know for sure what happens afterwards. And so, while other people were doing their thing in junior high and high school, I'm like, man, I gotta know the truth, because I don't know what's gonna happen to me tomorrow. And I don't just take another day for granted. And I think, what's it gonna be like when I see him? And, before that, man, I used to not really care. I grew up in church, and I would say I believed in God, but it wasn't until I really started studying that I go, oh man, it changed my whole perspective on him. I mean, I just remember as a kid, all I cared about was what everyone thought of me. Because I remember when I came over, because after my mom died, they sent me to Hong Kong, and so I only spoke Chinese when I came back to America, and it was just weird trying to make friends, and all your friends have sandwiches in their lunchbox, and you've got some sticky rice covered with green leaves, and it's just like, what? And so it's so hard to fit in, and all I cared about is, I want people to like me, And I remember one time, I still remember so vividly, like in third grade, when I cut in line at lunch, and my teacher said, Francis, get to the end of the line. And all my friends start laughing, and then she goes, and today, during PE, you don't get to play dodgeball. I know, it stinks, huh? I'm like, oh, and I hated that feeling of embarrassment, right? But during PE that day, I snuck into the game, and I just started playing thinking she'd forget. And my friends are like, you're not supposed to be here. And I go, I don't care, and I'm just playing, right? But I still remember, okay, third grade, my teacher catches me in the game, and she goes, Francis, get out of the game. And all my friends start laughing, and I'm just embarrassed again. And I just remember looking at her, and I go, Miss Lombardi. And I flipped her off. Third grade. I didn't know what it meant. I just learned how to do it. I was just like, And all my friends were like looking at me like, no way, you just flipped off the teacher. And I was so proud because I got everyone's acceptance, for a few moments. And then she goes, I'm going to call your dad. And I thought, no way, because my dad, he used to beat the heck out of me, if I did anything wrong. And so I was terrified, but I'm with all my friends, so I'm just looking at her, I don't care, And I remember her taking me, to the principal's office and calling my dad and going, your son flipped me off today. And I thought, he doesn't know what that means. Because she's like trying to explain, like, no, he gave me the bird. And I thought, he's so clueless. So the whole day in my mind, I'm walking home and I'm going, oh, I hope he didn't call a white friend, And I get to the door, and I'm just going to pretend like nothing happened. And he's right at the door to greet me. And he just goes, your teacher called. And I go, oh, that's nice, lady. And I'm trying to walk away. And he goes, she was mad. I go, why mad? Happy day. Just trying to go. And he goes, she said you flip off. I was like, what is flip off? I don't know. He had no clue what I did, but he still hit me. And I remember, man, as a kid, those are the two things I cared about. It's like, what's my dad going to do to me, and what do my friends think of me? And I'd go to church and say I believed in this and that. But you guys, pretty soon, I started reading this book for myself. And that's when everything changed. Man, it's so weird because I went to church for years and no one in church ever described God to me. They tell me to believe in him. They tell me the things that he did, but they never actually described him. And the other thing, they never actually told me how to get to heaven. Man, that's crazy. After all the death I experienced, and yet no one thought, let's tell him who God is. We just went, we sang songs, we listened to messages, and I didn't understand what they were saying. But then I started reading this book, and you guys, I went from just believing that God was real and believing in Jesus to where I went, okay, no way. My whole identity is wrapped up in him. Man, when I read the way the Bible described him, has anyone ever described God to you? Man, I started reading about how Moses said to God, God, can I see you? Just let me look at you right now. And do you remember what God says to Moses? He says, no. He says, no man can see my face and live. God's saying, do you understand? Okay, so right now in heaven,